everyone, and welcome to today's session. Thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Marcel, and I'm your moderator in the upcoming session. Today, we are talking about Let's Get Techy, a technical roadmap for your API ecosystem, presented by Amber Fallon. She is Technical Sales Engineer at Omitria, Stuart Barker, General Manager Europe, and Ben Cook, General Manager Business Development and Marketing at Comestri. And last but not least, Georg Sorst. He is Principal Engineer at FinderLogic.
Look, thanks for having us here today. We're really pleased to be here both with Omitria and with FinderLogic. And the reason that we're excited as Comestri is we want to tell our story, and we want to tell our story in the context of these other great technology organizations. And today is obviously all about technology, and we're going to look at things through a technology lens. And my colleague Ben, who's been in the business for a long time, he's been building our pathways to market and really understanding the requirements and needs that our customers have from a technology perspective. He's here to talk about that in more detail. But I wanted just to kick off today with a bit of the why and who Comestri is and why we're attending today and why we think we can add value to these two amazing organizations. When we look at Omitria, I think they've got a fantastic story around customer data, right? And bringing together really valuable customer data, understanding behavioral patterns and helping organizations to make sense of that. When we look at FinderLogic, again, they are driving conversations around product discovery. The common piece here is that you can have all the customer data in the world. If you don't have the product data to go with it, you can't personalize. You can't start to bring together these amazing orchestrated experiences where product is really well matched to our consumer. And if we flip to the other side and we look at FinderLogic, again, if a product isn't properly described, it can't be properly discovered. So there's the intersection of kind of these three companies around product. And Comestri, this is what we do. So we're a technology provider. We're headquartered in Australia. We're in high growth mode in Europe and high growth mode in APAC. We solve a really difficult problem, which is the product journey. As it enters into your organization, as it's pushed to your customers and where they can buy it, when they've made their purchasing decisions, how do we ship that product to them? This is the journey that we're looking after within our platform. And I'm very pleased here to have, today to have Ben here with us, who can talk a little bit about how our technology and our API-led approach to market helps us enable some really good outcomes here. So I'm based in Europe. I'm here to help and serve anyone on this call. If you have any inquiries or questions, please do contact me. But right now I'm going to hand over to Ben, and he's going to take us through the way we see the API ecosystem and how Comestri sort of facilitates really good outcomes around product and shipping. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you, Stuart, and thank you, Amber, before that, and thanks for having me along today to describe a little bit about our journey and where APIs fit into our landscape, and also I think from a practical reality perspective, where we start to use data through the conversation of APIs for better experiences in the by and large in the retail world. So that's largely what I'm going to focus my presentation on today. So as we kind of get into that, as Amber quite rightly pointed out, she did a great job of talking about the use of APIs and what an API is. We come at this from a product perspective, as Stuart mentioned. And when we look at the world of e-com, and when we look at the world of commerce, and we look at the world of retail, we're starting to see things like product data, inventory data, catalog data, pricing, promotions, customer data, all being consumed by different end tools. And that conversation and validation of that data is typically an on-the-fly kind of aspect. It's based on a consumption model, almost give me a little bit of something, and then when I want all of it, I'll go and consume that via an API call. And so then we're starting to see that being pushed into many different applications and environments, whether that be online, in the tech space, whether it be in store, whether it be through app, and the likes. So there's some of the things that I'll chat to as part of this presentation. And hopefully you can get some kind of practical realities of what we talk about. In more recent times, there's been a lot of discussion in retail about what is headless, what is composable commerce, how do I share this data between applications, how do I go and fetch data when it's needed and when it's required, rather than plug all of this data into these kind of monolithic systems. And so in our world, what was originally headless, which was kind of I've got this monolithic system, And off the back of this monolithic system, I would put a stencil on top, create an environment. That environment, that stencil kind of got cut off. Everyone started producing PWAs, but they were still calling data from a monolithic environment. And that really became the world of headless. When you start to then move into a composable commerce world, it's actually looking at what are the best of breed solutions that can supply me information as I require it from an application that is sense of purpose or has a sense of purpose for what it does. And for that, then I'm then looking at those applications and then building those applications into my website, my mobile app, my digital marketplace. We're seeing the consumption of that data then being personalized into email marketing tools, consumer loyalty tools, where they want elements of that data. They may not want the full stack, they may not want the full data load, but they want elements of that to kind of better themselves for, and again, there's a lot of talk around things like AI and the like, but essentially when you start looking at personalization and personalization tools, again, whether you're in the final logic space or you're in the customer space, you're kind of using certain aspects of information to merchandise better, offer a better outcome to essentially your consumer. And that's definitely where we're seeing the retail space going. Interestingly, we do a lot of work with Gartner. They do have a good tendency to be able to kind of graphically represent this. And so when we're sort of moving through this experience of what APIs actually provide, we have moved away from this, what's my all-in-one system? My all-in-one system didn't have to care about APIs because it didn't really have communication methods. And then we started to think about this experience-led system. So we start going into headless, and that headless environment said, well, actually, this is really useful when I've got a storefront, but actually, if I now need a mobile application, how am I going to go and connect to that data that hasn't previously been provided to me? And then when we start going into this modular API first environment, it's then starting to look at these kind of best of breed solutions with API layers sitting on top of them that then get consumed as required. And with the advancement, I think, of technology, communication methods, speed, the internet, as we move towards a kind of what we term an ecom 3.0 environment, it's then really looking at the outcomes and the experiences that I then want to provide. Nobody does this stuff just for fun. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and just says, oh, I'm going to go and build some APIs today into my API layer. But really, they're trying to create an outcome. And that outcome is largely focused at the moment around consumer experience, customer experience, user experience, personalization, and being able to provide a better experience for the purpose of the outcome. And that's really where we start to see ecom 3.0 go. Again, we've kind of gone from the 1.0, the 2, where we've created there's global organizations now in the ecom space that have very robust systems, and the API first approach isn't necessarily for everyone. Again, you do need to understand the technology, you need to understand how it comes together, you need to understand where I'm going to go and grab different bits from different organizations, different systems. But when you start getting to ecom 3.0, this connected world that we now live in allows me to go and do that. And it's really interesting in what I think was really an articulation of a vision that sort of happened probably 25, 30 years ago. So, why would we do this? We want that personalized experience. Speed is of the essence nowadays. If I don't have to kind of plug information into a single system and then read from that system, then I can create a much faster, much more highly scalable outcome by being able to communicate with different systems at a point in time. This concept of just give me the information that I require when I require it stops us having to kind of move data through all of these different systems. This concept of vendor flexibility, people are creating API layers and communication layers, which allow me to say, if something comes along that's better than what I've got right now, I am covered. It's less risk for an organization. Rather than choosing a single system that's now going to be with me for the next 7 to 10 years, I can actually choose a system that's right for me right now, depending on my growth and scale. And if it's not right for me in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, I can actually move it out of my stack and choose something else. The concept of unique journeys, again, starts to look at, right, well, I used to consume all this information online when you came to my website. But then when I sent you an email, actually paid no attention to that kind of information. Whereas now we're starting to say, well, depending on where my journey starts, my customer journey starts, it could be through email, online, into Google, through digital, through marketplaces, and eventually land online. But then I also need the same types of information in store when we think about retail, because that journey needs to be consistent, and therefore I want the same information consumed throughout that journey. So then when we start to kind of visualize this, again, this is admittedly a very kind of retail orientated aspect of what we're sort of looking at. But we think about content, we think about blog posts, we think about video, we think about the marketing material that's out there saying, I'm trying to add value to you by describing the products and the product sets that I'm offering. And that can be down to where material is farmed, how it's consumed, the sustainability aspects of what we're looking at nowadays, how I look after this thing. If I send out, and if I'm a manufacturer of car vehicles and I need to send out maintenance videos, on an ongoing basis, how am I going to do that based on the information that gets consumed? So content is all important, as is promotions, loyalty. Again, we think about CDPs, we think about customer data, how they blend together with loyalty, so that I can then start to look at, well, I've got customer data, I've got content, I've got loyalty, but then I still really need to sell my products, and that product needs to be at the right price and come at the right time. And so these kind of layers, and this information stack sort of sits there and then says, right, I then need to feed this into a mobile device. I need to feed it into my online e-commerce website. I need to feed it into my social commerce outputs, and then I may go beyond that. And so I think, for us as an organization that tends to have an API first approach, we're then starting to get inquiries going, I really want that product feed. You need to give it to me so that it can feed my personalization engine, so that I know that when I'm sending out an email to that consumer, it's the product that they want. I've got inventory that sits behind that, and therefore they can consume that as and when is required by them. And in the retail world, we talk a lot about trust, but really it's also about making sure that the right product is in front of them at the right time when they want to buy it. And so, again, I can kind of bang on about this sort of stuff for hours, but we then start to look at, well, where does Comestri play in that? We have this concept of a materialized cached environment. It's kind of the precursor. It's like pre-logic that then says, if I'm a department store, I need to curate a product experience that's very different if I'm offering white goods to furniture, to homewares, to clothing. And so the curation of that experience is going to be different. It's got different product spec sheets. The manner in which you're buying it, the way in which you're buying it is very different. And so when I think about that kind of department store kind of mindset, the ability to kind of create and pre-compose data sets that then can be called on by this presentation orchestration layer, I think is all important. And also then for us, we then start to think about inventory. We have very detailed conversations around inventory. No retailer out there likes oversells. It's like the bane of their existence, having to phone a customer and say, I need to give you a refund because you bought something that we can't deliver the promise on. And so the concept of inventory comes down to, how do we get close to real-time inventory calls across my entire stack, so that I can with 100% guarantee that what you're trying to buy online is also readily available in store, is also readily available through my mobile application. And that kind of concept of our delivery API then starts to look at, not only have we got it, but how do you want it, right? If you then start adding things to cart, change the weight of that cart, then the delivery aspects of that needs to change to the customer. So that customer promise needs to change. And I'm now communicating my customer promise electronically, not verbally. And so as a result, these API calls are constantly querying data and databases to say, the user now wants this, what is our response to that? And I guess the sort of satisfaction of the user then comes down to the quality of that information. And when that information is stored within a best of breed solution, you can ensure that the quality of that information is as good as it's going to get. And I think for us, definitely looking at this API approach has allowed us to then say, you can go and have a better quality of conversation by picking up data from us, rather than us having to send it to a third party and then you're getting it from them. And I think, if I go back to what some of the things that Amber was talking about, it comes down to that communication method, how quick that communication method is, how the nature of that communication method, and if you are then communicating based on a lot of data, do you enforce rate limits on those sorts of things too? And again, that all then is tailored based on the architecture set that you're trying to build. I often kind of throw up, two clients of ours that are here in Australia. One is an organisation called Adore Beauty. They've recently listed. They are without doubt probably the golden child of the e-com space and the pure play space over here in Australia. They built an exceptional headless and composable architecture that really provides incredible content interjected with product data. You can buy product from just about anything that they have on site, whether you're in a blog post, whether you're in a category page. And so, that product data, the product experience that they offer is exceptional. And then another customer of ours, which is Pillow Talk, have a really interesting set of logic that looks at groups of products and whether those groups of products, because they're in that homeware space, is available within store through a click and collect or a ship from store model, and therefore what that delivery promise is. So, kind of interesting practical outcomes of where APIs are at the forefront of, web experiences, in-store experiences, and that kind of deliverability that you have in terms of your customer promise and the customer experience.